Good afternoon, everybody. This is Chris Scully and Bob Spitz coming to you live from Drive.
Good afternoon.
So, Bob, last time we were on, we talked about setting goals and the importance of setting goals and how you should go about setting goals. And today we're going to talk a bit about how to achieve those goals.
Yeah, now that you've got them set.
Yeah, because that's usually where things fall apart.
Right. I mean, what we talked about last time was just so vitally important. You know, the difference between a wish and a plan, right? And then actually naming out exactly what it is that you're going for, and having that very clear, that vision in your mind of what it is that you want to have, what you want to get. But now, okay. So we've painted up this elephant here. We see it out there. How are we going to eat this thing?
One bite at a time.
That's it.
That's it. You know, and a lot of the, I think one of the steps that sometimes is missed is the importance of observation here. Mm-hmm. Really having a grip on where you stand today and what is the next thing that you need to do to get you a bit closer to that goal that you've set.
That's absolutely true. And that's the magic of good management.
Right. And you, because here's what happens that I've seen a lot of shop owners do. They set this star high goal and they think they can go from step 1 to step 35 all at once.
Right.
And you can't. And it's that ability to observe where you are and to understand what you can accomplish in a given time period is critical to being able to achieve those goals.
Yeah, you know, being able to truly assess the actual existing condition or state of a business is it's kind of a gift, because it does take, as you said, observation. You know, it's one of the beauties of our on-site inspection program, how it just opens up a shop owner's eyes to the actual existing condition of the business, not what you might think it is, not what you wish it might be, but what it really is.
Right.
And how do I take it from this state to that state that I'm envisioning? Yeah,
and it often surprises shop owners when they see some of the things that the inspectors observe, and they see some of the things that employees say to the inspector. They have no idea, because you know, one of the things that happens is when you're in the middle of it every day, then things that would jump out at somebody who's not there every day just become part of the scenery to you.
That's right. You absolutely go blind to your existing scene.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a huge thing. I remember numerous times when I visited a shop or other clients before I came to Drive, and I would just say, hey, come over here for a second. Look at that. Tell me what you see.
Mm-hmm.
And they would say things, and they're missing the most obvious thing.
Right.
Until I just kept asking the question until they finally saw it. And then you see the light go on.
Yeah.
It's amazing as an exercise to do.
Well, you know, some of our earlier clients who did the original SBA, that was one of the big eye-openers we discovered right away, is when we'd have them actually take pictures of their facility. And when they looked at their shop through the lens of the camera, they saw things that they just didn't see. They said, oh my gosh, is this what my customers see? And it was it was quite enlightening.
Now, the other piece of advice I like to give people about achieving goals is they have to get an idea of what that logical sequence of actions is in order to get to where they want to go.
Right. Thinking in sequences is paramount, and not everybody can do it.
Right. And it will prevent you from going off on some side street that has nothing to do with getting to your destination. Mm-hmm. You know, it'll keep you from sitting around smelling flowers when you should be doing
busy
something
at work.
Else.
That's right.
You know, all those types of things.
Yeah. And you know, one of the tools that helps so much with that, that I've used throughout my life, are flow charts. Because I'm thinking about this end product that I want to have, and I'm looking at where I am, and a flow chart is really a roadmap of how do I get from where I am to where I want to be. And it allows me to work it out on paper and find the pitfalls or find the things that I'm doing that's out sequence, where I put my shoes on before my socks and go, oh no, that doesn't work. Let's change that around. So flow charts, knowing how to use them and using them is a very valuable tool for anybody who's trying to set and achieve a goal.
Absolutely. Another thing that, I'm definitely interested in hearing, your stories on this, because I've got plenty of my own as well. But sometimes the even if you get the right sequence, you don't often break it down into small enough chunks. Like you said, how are we going to eat this elephant? Well, it's one bite at a time.
That's
Well,
right.
how big is that bite?
Right.
How much can you really bite off at any one time?
Before you choke.
Right. And I've seen so many people think that one bite is really the size of 10, and then they can't do it because it's too much.
Oh yeah. Yeah. How about going into a disorderly shop and saying to the manager, clean this place up? Okay. Start where?
Right.
What's the most important thing to start with? And observing that once again, and consulting the person's understanding in front of you. It's so vital. So yeah, you can name yourself a target, and that target is just too whopping big.
Right. It's one of the things that also I've seen, which is always amusing when it finally comes to light what the real problem is. But you get a shop owner who's spending a lot of his time in the back, and he sets a target like, write 25 policies this month. Sure. What are you gonna do that when you're during your sleep time?
That's right. Between 2 and 3 in the morning.
Because he's spending all day under the hood of a car. He's not at a stage where he can write that many policies in a month or two. He'd be doing great if he wrote one every couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And his most important target is hire a technician to take over from what he's doing, but he hasn't thought of that one as being the most important target yet. And these are the kinds of things that'll trip you up on getting to your goal if you don't realize that and you don't think with these things.
That's right. And and setting up the basic organization that you need to achieve it is critical, because otherwise you're starting with the wrong base, and you'll end up tripping over yourself, doing things twice, doing things out of sequence. And once again, one of those tools is a flow chart. But in cooking, you might know this, Chris, to be very good at cooking a meal, besides planning out the meal, having a goal for the meal, then planning out the meal, is setting up. In the French, I love the French because they have terms for everything in cooking.
Yes.
One is your mise en place.
Right.
And that's just setting everything up so that you can execute, right?
Yeah.
Everything is laid out so that you can execute. So if you're thinking about this goal and you're coming up with this plan on how I'm going to achieve the goal, well, do you have the basic pieces in place in the first place to get that plan in motion, right? Because it's fine to say, okay, let's get this done, but I don't have anybody to do that.
Right.
And I can't do it all myself. So that comes down to, once again, looking at your resources. What do I have? How do I put them all in place so that I can get this ball moving and get it moving quickly?
Yeah, that's such a critical point. Taking a real good look at what the resources are that you can utilize to get some sort of motion toward your goal. A lot of shops these days are looking for techs. They need another tech, whether it's to replace the shop owner in the back or just to increase their production. And it's a challenge. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that you can't take some other actions to move you a little bit closer to your goal while you're getting that next tech hired.
Hmm.
And that's a matter of, as you said, really taking a look at your resources and what can you get done
Hmm.
while you're working on that tech, and also making sure that you're taking effective action to get that next tech hired at the same time.
That's right. And going back to what you said, do we have unreal expectation for the time period that I've given myself?
Right.
It's one thing to have a couple of B techs and go, well, by the end of this year, my B techs are going to be A techs. It's another thing to have a group of kids right out of school go, I want them all to be master techs at the end of the year.
Right.
Right. And
Absolutely.
you're setting yourself up for a loss right there, because that's not going to happen. But that B tech, hey, he could probably become an A tech if I
Right.
have the resources to train him. I've got a training plan, and that's where, we have these great new apps, as you know, Chris, where we can create trading plans and think them through in our Team Builder app to really help a person in a very systematic way get from where they are in their skill to a whole different level of skill.
Right. And we also have the Playbook app where you can actually ensure that all of the training materials that you need to get somebody there are included and available and so on. And that's something that, again, as part of getting to your goals, you want to make sure that you're utilizing those resources as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some people who are just they're just gifted at this. They just can think sequentially. They get it. They know what they need to have. They've got the experience, and they can get right at it. But a lot of people don't have that. And this is where coaching comes in place, and having someone to talk to and talk things through. That really does help a lot in achieving a goal. One of the goals that I used to like to set for my clients, and it depended on how bad they wanted it, of course, because I'm setting that goal for them, and they've got to want that goal too,
Right.
was to become a master of shop management, right? And is this a 2-year goal? Is this a 1-year goal? Like David Saline, he did it in 1 year. Is it a 5-year goal? And okay, so what do we have to do? And having someone else to talk that through is huge. And that's, all good business people surround themselves with a great team.
Yes.
And that team includes their coach. It includes a great attorney, tax advisor, financial planner, just these different people to put all the pieces together, and then coordinating those pieces into, I'm going to achieve this goal. We're going to do 2 million this year. We did 1.1 million last year. We're going to do 2 million. Okay. What is it going to take to do 2 million this year? And keep the money.
Yeah,
Right?
that's like a minor detail, right?
Yeah, because we've seen plenty of shops that had gross, and as Mike Lee used to say, it's gross how much gross they had, right?
Right.
But there was no money. It was all going in one side and out the other.
Yep.
So, having that team together to work through those points so that you're not at the 11th hour discovering you've got a tax problem when you had no idea that you were going to have a tax problem.
Been there,
Right?
done that.
Oh, yeah.
It hurts, man.
Oh, painful. So, having a team, I think, is very key to achieving your goals. This is not a one-man show.
Absolutely. And that actually extends beyond just the people you mentioned, your tax advisor, your accountant, your attorney, your financial planner, but also your team in your shop, your bookkeeper, your service advisor, your technicians. If your goals are set in such a way that they can all rally behind them and they can all be motivated by those goals, then those people will help you achieve those goals as well. They'll want to. And that's a really important point. And it goes to what we talked about last time about there are different types of goals. You might have a personal goal of becoming a millionaire, but that's not going to motivate your team.
No.
But things like upgrading the shop or things that they can see benefit them and the customers, those things are going to motivate your team, and they can certainly be aligned with your goal of being a millionaire, as an example.
Right.
And when you do things that way, then you generate a lot more power, because instead of it's now not just you, the shop owner, working on it, but it's you, your employees, your attorney, your accountant, etc. Everybody's aligned to achieving those goals, because they all have something that they can see as a benefit of doing that.
Right. You get their buy-in that way.
Absolutely.
And that comes back to something we were talking about earlier, is your own observation and really understanding where you truly are right now. You know, one of the tools that we've always provided our shop owners is having skills assessments to assess where are my people right now in their skill, right? Whether it be a technician, whether it be sales, whether it be bookkeeping, what is their skill level, so that I'm not asking for something that is not going to happen,
right?
Because they could be very willing, but they aren't able to do it, right? So assessing, observation and assessment, and having true data is so key. You know, that's one of the things I'm excited about that we're working on here at Drive is having that true data.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's often easy to overlook what you're missing because it's not there, right?
That's right. It's the hardest thing to see is the omitted.
Right. If you see something in your shop that's out of place, that it's there but it doesn't belong there, that's easy, right? But seeing what you're missing is a lot harder. And very often, shop owners, they have their shop management systems, they have their DVI systems, they have all these different pieces of software that they use. Some of them, they only scratch the surface of using them fully, but they don't necessarily talk to each other, and they're not always easy to get to the information that you really need to use in order to take those next steps with your shop, either because the systems aren't designed to give you that information easily, or you don't know how to get it.
Right. Yeah, and just a simple example, why does my SMS say this and yet QuickBooks says that?
Right.
You know, how is it that these aren't in sync?
Exactly.
How come my cost of labor in my SMS is completely different than what I'm actually paying out in payroll? You know, it's how could that be?
Right.
Right. So
and
having those things synced up is huge.
Yeah. And those are all things that can trip you up if you're trying to achieve goals of profitability and things like that. You've got to be able to get the data, understand what you're getting, and reconcile it where it needs to be, so that you know that you're looking at an accurate picture, and then you'll be able to see what you need to do to improve it.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because otherwise you're just shooting in the dark and hoping for results.
Exactly.
Right. And as long as you're a gambler and you don't mind losing occasionally, well, that's fine. But a lot of people take that very hard. You know, they work very hard. They set a goal. They work very hard, and they don't achieve it, and then it's like, right, morale killer.
And actually, that's something that we haven't talked about much, but I think it really bears discussion at this point, which is that if one of the things that can keep you from achieving your goals is being stuck on past failures.
Oh, isn't that true?
If you've, let's say, set the goal to do $1 million in sales, and if you had that goal for 10 years and you've never achieved it, and maybe never even come close, it's really hard to get motivated to try again.
That's right.
But that's exactly what you need to do if you ever want to achieve it. And
that's right.
One of the things that's a great tool to kind of keep your eye on the prize and help you pinpoint the actions that you need to take, particularly when we're talking about financial goals, is your KPIs. If your KPIs, when you put them on a line graph, are trending upward, then you're making progress. you're
That's right.
heading in the right direction. If they're not, then something's wrong that you need to fix.
Yeah, and you don't wait until the end of the year to find out it didn't work, right?
Exactly.
And you're so right, Chris, because one of the things that most people have a hard time doing is patting themselves on the back
Right.
and taking a win and
It's
going, you
true.
know what? It's better than it was, right? Maybe I didn't quite get to where I need to be right now, but it's better than it was.
Yeah.
So we're going to get it done this time because I know where we fell down. Because that's the other point is in your observation as you're on your way to achieving your goals, finding out what worked and what didn't work. And that comes back to KPIs. You know, we have this great series of workshops on change management and observing that change. What did I do? Right? Recording that. And did it work? Didn't it work?
Exactly.
Why didn't it work? And then quickly fixing that and moving on instead of just going, this isn't going to work. Right.
Yeah. And, now that you've mentioned it, truthfully, everybody that's watching this, I really want you to pay attention to this point. Achieving your goals means change.
Yes, it does.
Which means you need to know how to manage change. You need to know how to get buy-in from your team, because in order to achieve your goals, you have to change things in your shop. Because if everything stays the same, then you won't get anywhere.
That's right. You'll just get the same result again. Right.
And that's
so
the old definition of insanity, doing the same
that's
thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
that's exactly right. And allowing people to excel and recognizing talent within your own team and not getting in their way and letting them really shine, because too many shop owners they hold too close to their chest.
Oh, that's true.
Right.
Absolutely.
And they're afraid to let go of that power. They're afraid to let go of that responsibility. And yet that's exactly the change that has to happen with most guys.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, letting go is probably the biggest issue a business owner, not just in a shop, but any kind of small business where you built it up. It's your baby and it's gotten there because you made it get there. And now somebody's telling you that you need to let it go and you need to give other people the authority or the responsibility to do things that only you did before.
Yeah.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
It's terrible. And, and you see that all the time in family businesses.
Yeah.
And then the sad thing is it was a great business and dad goes away, he passes away, he dies or whatever. And the first thing the kids do is they sell the joint.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they were never allowed to participate and be part of it and create it for themselves.
Right.
Right. And you've got to be willing to change your mind about that and let people create.
Yeah. And so many people that I talk to that are reluctant to do that. They're so afraid of, what if they screw it up? What if I give them the authority and they screw it up? Well, you're still there and you can help fix it, and you can teach them how to not make that mistake again. In fact, sometimes screwing it up is the best way for people to learn.
Absolutely. As long as they know what they screwed up. And
Right.
they've got some coaching and they've got some guidance and you are watching your KPIs, because the other side of that coin is you let everything go before it's ready to go.
Yes.
And I see that mistake when folks decide they want to open up a second shop. And that first shop really isn't ready to be let go of.
Yeah. Then you're bouncing between two
broken
different
shops.
locations and putting out fires in both. And I've had clients do that, and it's tough because they're not able to take their attention off of either shop at any time. And they're in one shop while they're handling a fire in the other shop. Then they go back to that shop and then something, and it's a constant thing. So this ability to let things go at the right time involves letting it go in smaller chunks.
Back to eating that elephant.
Yeah. And then you can catch the mistakes and you can coach the person on, okay, they made a mistake. Here's what you do the next time so you don't wind up with that again. And eventually you work your way out of a job.
Yeah.
And we've got tons of services that help our clients do that. You know,
Mhm.
we've got a shop policy apprenticeship, so you can actually put that playbook together that tells them everything they need to know.
Mhm.
We've got the Freedom Apprenticeship, which helps you unload all of your responsibilities.
Yeah,
And then the Shop Manager Apprenticeship, which helps your shop manager learn to do the things that you've been doing.
right.
And all of these things go toward, especially if your goal is to achieve stage 4 and have a shop that's operational where you don't have to be there 80 hours a week or even 40 hours a week, and sometimes not even 20 hours a week if you've really got it dialed in. Well, these are some tools that'll help you get there.
That's right. That's right. So circling back, because believe it or not, we're running out of time here,
I
Chris.
know.
One, hopefully you did set a goal since the last time we talked. And two, now it's time for the planning. And planning is not wishing. Planning is actually having the tools that we talked about, your KPIs, true data, true information coming from your management systems, flow charts with timelines, assessments of where you really are at, and then a simple plan with simple actions that can be done, not things that you look at it and you go, oh, that's impossible. I'll never get that done because it's too big of a target, right? And doing those things and keeping your eye on the ball, and you will make it. You will get there.
Absolutely. And on that note, then we are going to wrap up today's show. Thank you all for joining us, and have a
Yeah.
great weekend, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.